All right, welcome back to Behavior Shift. Today we're diving into a topic that sounds kind of dark, but is actually super brilliant. This is the idea of pre and post-mortems. Kurt, can you talk about that a little
Ooh,
bit?
that is this about some medieval medicine or crime scene drama? No, this is actually all about smart planning. It's about seeing into the future before it goes off to the rails or learning from it after it has. So that's what this is want to be about. Yeah.
And there are no magic 8 balls here. Today we're just going to teach you how to predict what could go wrong without turning yourself into a paranoid stress monster that always worried about if that actually will happen or not.
Which I will admit is something I personally had to work on, is that stress monster me becoming that. Okay.
We're all works in progress here, buddy.
Okay, let's start with a pre-mortem. And this concept was popularized in the behavioral science world by psychologist Gary Klein, and it's been championed by decision-making wizard Annie Duke, former poker pro, cognitive science buff, and author of Thinking in Bets and Quit. And we had her on multiple times on the Behavioral Grooves podcast, which is the kind of sister cousin podcast to this one. They've been really people who have really pushed this concept of a pre-mortem.
Yeah, and basically what a pre-mortem is it's just asking you to imagine that your project or goal or whatever it is you're working on has already failed. It's a total disaster. It crashed and burned. You're in the future and you're sitting there and you're like, how could this have happened? And you sit down and you look back and say, what happened? Why did I fail?
Yeah, so this is the opposite of manifesting success. It's like visualize the crash site so that you can steer around it. It's this cool concept, and Annie talks about it in this way of, hey, if you can sit down and just envision we're starting this project, whether it be we're going to write volume 4 of Brain Shift, right? All right, a year from now, it still isn't done, or it's not selling at all, or there's nothing going on. We just have to then work backwards from there and say, okay, so it crashed and failed. What were the roadblocks that got put in our way? What were the things that sent it off of the rails? And by doing that, by placing yourself in the future, it does a neat little psychological trick that allows us to think of those things better than really just trying to anticipate what could go wrong by looking forward. And it's really some interesting brain science around that we don't have time to go into, but maybe a little bit, right?
But in essence, you're giving yourself an understanding of what those roadblocks had been in that failed situation, so that you can prepare yourself with the tools to navigate around them and understand what you need to do to avoid them. And here's the science research that shows when we imagine failure before it happens, we think more critically, more creatively, and with fewer blind spots. It reduces our overconfidence bias, which many of us have, actually all of us have, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the big cognitive traps that can lead us to bad decisions.
Yeah, because let's be honest, when we're excited about something, a new job, a launch, a fitness plan, getting, the next version of this out, we usually imagine just, wow, it's so easy. Everything goes perfectly. But a pre-mortem snaps you out of that fantasy mode, and it helps you spot those landmines early on.
Okay, so some real talk. Let's say you've got a goal. Maybe you're starting a business. That's a great example that we can use. Or you're training for a half marathon. We use that a lot because it's relatable to a lot of people on the fitness perspective. Or say you're trying to launch your band's second album at the age 43. Hypothetically,
Totally hypothetically there, Ben. Yeah.
Anyways, you sit down and you ask, and neither of us are 43, so past fate,
Yeah.
hypothetical.
Yeah.
But anyways, you sit down and you ask, what are all the ways that this could fail? What could go wrong? What might I overlook? What are the blind spots that I'm not thinking about? Where might I get lazy? Where might I get distracted? Where might my overconfidence kick in? And what external stuff outside of just my own internal issues could cause this project to derail, or this goal to derail?
Right. And you're thinking about all of those questions in a retrospective perspective. So you've already imagined that this has failed. So What went wrong? What did you overlook? What were the reasons that you got lazy or distracted or overconfident? What was the external stuff that derailed this? So you're not dooming yourself, you're just arming yourself with this anticipation of, hey, it's already gone bad, so now I can figure this out.
Like, you want to run the marathon, you want to get in shape, but hey, I totally forgot that I actually hate running and I really love cookies, right? That kind of stuff.
Yes, yes, that's it. So once you've got your list, so once you've taken that chance and said, all right, here's the project we're starting, here's a year in the future or 2 years in the future, whatever the appropriate time frame is, and it's failed. Now go back and ask what made it fail. What were the things that we didn't take into consideration? What were all that? Write those down. Now you got that list. Now you can ask yourself, what can I do today so that I can reduce the chances of anything happening that is on that list? Boom. Now you've got a plan that's grounded in reality and not just hope.
Yeah. And that's because rebellions are built on hope, but goals should not be, right?
There you go. There you go.
A few people will get that joke.
There you go.
Anyways, we'll move on from that. Let's flip it on its head and think about the idea of a post-mortem. So we've talked pre-mortem. Now we're going to flip the calendar and you've done the thing or you didn't. Either way, it's time for the post-mortem. This is when you're
Yeah,
looking
and
back.
this was a classic one. And we probably should have maybe started with this because I think more people are probably familiar with a postmortem. It's a classic in business, sports, medicine. You basically look at a project after it's completed and you review to say what worked, what didn't, and what can I learn from this for the next project moving forward.
And this is where Annie Duke goes deep. In her work, she says we tend to do postmortems only when things go badly. But you should absolutely do them when things go well, too.
Yeah. And why? Because sometimes things work out for the wrong reasons. You got lucky. You cut corners, but those corners, for whatever reason, didn't make an impact this time. You hit the goal, but your process might have been a hot mess. So if you don't analyze it, you might repeat it. And next time, cutting those corners or that process that was a hot mess are going to come back to bite you. And luck might not be on your side.
Exactly. And postmortems help you build better systems and not just better outcomes. And this is actually something as a backcountry skier that we see a lot, right? Kurt, we've talked about this.
Oh, yeah.
You make decisions and you might make the right decision or the wrong decision in the time period, and then you come to the end and you didn't get in an avalanche, you're safe, you're back at your car, everything went well. It can be easy to look back and say, wow, what a great day, I did everything right. But what's even better to do is sit and say, did I do everything right or did I get lucky? So that the next time you're in that scenario, if you did just get lucky, you're not putting yourself in a situation where you end up in not getting lucky and in a really bad scenario.
Yeah, and Annie has a great example kind of this. It's real simple. It's like, hey, I'm driving on down the road. There's a stop sign. I just blow right through the stop sign. But hey, I didn't get hit. I didn't get a ticket. No bad. I can do that again and again, right? Because I had a good outcome from that. That's actually a pretty stupid move, right? If we all think about that. At some point you're going to get hit, and that is really what we're doing. We're looking back at a good outcome to see if there was pieces that we can leverage again that are positive. We don't want to always focus in on the negative, right? We did some things that worked, but also realize, hey, did we get lucky here? Maybe we need to really think about the process a little bit more, and what can we do next time to make it make work better, right? All right. Let's make this usable, Ben. Here's a quick and dirty pre-post-mortem combo that you can run on any goal. So before you start, write down, it's 3 months from now, 6 months from now, whatever that time period is, and this completely failed. What happened? And then go through this process and list the 3 to 5, 7 things that went wrong. Think about all those different things, and then write down the action step that you're going to take that will help diminish each of those risks to help avoid it. And then make sure after the project wraps up, take that postmortem and actually do it. Don't skip it. Even if it was a successful project, what helped you succeed? What slowed you down? What got in the way? What will I repeat next time or avoid next time?
Yeah, and just to clarify, the first couple questions there were specifically in regards to the pre-mortem. So that's establishing those, looking to the future and understanding what went wrong. And then that second part is the post-mortem, where it's actually doing the work of saying, hey, what happened? Why did that happen? What should I do next time? And with this, you've just future-proofed your goals and you've learned from your past. It's like being your own coach, except you're not yelling at yourself in all capitals.
Well, I might still be yelling at myself in all caps, but there you go.
So with that, let's have a bit of a wrap up and a challenge for everybody. This week, take one goal, just one, and run a quick pre-mortem on it. Give yourself permission to imagine it failing. Write it down, learn from it, understand what those inflection points were that led to that failure, and then think about what you could have done to adjust in that future scenario.
And if you've just finished up something, a project, a habit streak, a life chapter, run a quick post-mortem on it. Ask what really happened, not just what you want to believe had happened.
And that's because progress isn't about being perfect. It's about being curious. It's about being honest with yourself to understand actually what you need to do to get to where you need to be.
And that's how you shift. That's how you get better. And that's what this show is all about.
Exactly. So with that, we will catch you next time on Behavior Shift. Thank you.